tell us that we're streaming. There we go. Okay. How we doing? This is United in Green, Vermont Green's favorite podcast. Tonight I have my friend Will with us. How we doing, Will?
Good. And yourself?
Pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. You put the ball right back in my court. You don't want to do a like an and then thing or
Oh, it's Tuesday. We got a big guest today. I'm excited to get to the point here today,
Absolutely. So we will waste no time and we'll just introduce our guest, fan favorite, big man on campus up in Vermont, coming from Connecticut, and as we have learned, transferring soon. So we'd like to welcome Sam McCann.
Thank you guys so much for having me on. I'm really excited about this. And obviously you guys know how I feel about Vermont. And so the opportunity to be able to, speak directly with the fans and like interact with you guys in any capacity is always a great time for me. So look forward to it.
Awesome.
It's great to hear. So, I guess the first question I think we all have on our minds is, why Vermont in the first place? What first attracted you to the club last season,
Yeah, that's actually a really funny story about how I ended up in Vermont. I was in study hall with my teammate who came up with me, Brog Austin, and he like left to go take a phone call with Adam, and he came back and he was like discussing summer plans for soccer, and I was asked him what he was doing, and he talked about Vermont Green FC and like this new thing that they're doing up there, and I was like, huh, that seems really cool, and like I get to play soccer over the summer, stay in shape. And if I could, I'd want it to be with him. He's one of my best friends. And so he gave me Adam's number. And that kind of got the ball rolling to begin with. And I reached out to Adam, got on a Zoom call with him. He kind of talked about, what my role on the team would be, more or less, and kind of, the environment they were trying to build up there. And it was all just like super interesting to me. And it was just something that I definitely didn't want to miss out on. So I signed up as soon as I got the paperwork to come through.
Excellent. I gotta say, like I keep saying fan favorite, and we know what guys like Bjergolfsson and Messer and those guys all meant to the team, but I think to a man, those of us in the South Stand, we all felt that you were kind of when those guys left, like when Aitor left and you guys like you and Deba had to pick up the slack. I mean, you guys were the guys that were there that really saved this club, after those some of those guys had to leave to go back to school, and that meant a lot to us. I mean, as you might know, like Vermont is kind of has been a soccer starved state, and I think that in recent times it's kind of picked up steam a little bit, with Nordic and far post soccer clubs, and I've seen those clubs grow through my son as well, but just to have you there to save this club and to help us grow something that was organically built in basically a college dorm room years ago, and it came to fruition last year. Like the dream for them came to fruition, and it helped us too. Like I'm just an old guy who picked up soccer late in life because of my son. So we really appreciated what you brought. My question to you is actually like, what is your soccer origin story? When did you start, and when did you know that like this is something that you might have wanted to do?
Yeah, thank you for first of all for the kind words. That means so much that you guys feel that way about what me and what a lot of other players who I think flew under the radar the entire season. Like Carter was amazing when it came down to the end of it, like holding down center back for us, even though he wasn't a natural center back, let's say. But yes, there are a bunch of those guys that like I think really grinded it out, and like when unfortunately, some of the guys did leave, were able to pick up the pieces. It was, I mean, those guys, you can't put into words the amount of work that everybody put in throughout the year, and to see like their hard work pay off with getting recognition at the end of it was amazing. But so my soccer story was, my dad originally played soccer back in Ireland before he came to the United States. And so my older brother started playing it first. And at that age, I was trying to do everything that my older brother was doing. And so I just started playing soccer when I was really young, and I just couldn't get enough of it. I played other sports, but it didn't really, scratch the same way that soccer did. And I truly fell in love with it from a young age. Having a ball at my feet was just one of those most amazing things ever. And so, I grew up playing it like in the small goals with the puck goals, the grass fields, in the outfield of baseball fields. And then, continued going through travel soccer. The coach told me to push up and make a push for, those academy teams. I was lucky enough to find New York Soccer Club, which I was on for close to 10 years, which they were great. I learned so much in that system. And then right before COVID came, I got the opportunity to play for NYCFC's academy. That was absolutely massive. And, just being a part in that system, it really gave me the credit that, not that I was looking for, but, obviously made me feel like I was one of the top players, in the region, especially. And then, and then just all the hard work it showed to pay off to play for what I think is the best MLS academy team in the country.
Is Paula your mom?
Yes, Paula is my mom.
She just set up the green.
Oh my gosh, yeah, she became a fanatic with it all. I mean, you look at any of the social media posts and she's right there cheering everybody on. She
Excellent.
was, yeah.
Awesome.
So I'm over here fiendishly scrolling through Vermont Green's Twitter to go look at some of the old lineups that were set at the end of the season, and I'm noticing that you played in that striker role a lot, in the playoffs. And I know in the beginning of season 2 we had watched you sort of in that second striker role, kind of sitting in the pocket behind the striker, and I'm just curious if that's the position you prefer. Is the development league something that sort of allows you to experiment, or is that really where you're working to play on the pitch every game?
Yeah, so I mean, for the past, I believe it's 9 years or so, I've played striker, and so I felt most comfortable learning to play in that role. And I've played on the wing every now and again, within the years. I'm capable of playing on the wing. I've also played in the midfield in times, but striker's always been what I think is the most comfortable fit for me, just because the way I play, I think it highlights a lot of my strengths. And so it's definitely a position I was striving to play, and I still do to this day. It's definitely my favorite position to play.
Yeah, it's fascinating because I remember, seeing one of the preseason games, and you played a little deeper, and I was really impressed with sort of the ball carrying ability, and to see that sort of translate to a striker role in a league like this was really fascinating, because you really got on the ball and moved it. And I thought it was such an interesting thing to watch, not just getting on the end of things, but moving the ball and carrying it to different places on the pitch.
Mhm.
It brought a fresh energy, I think, when you started taking that role near the end of the season, compared to what we the style we're sort of playing during the regular season. I think that changed up really was effective in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely a big piece to Adam and how he wanted us to play. I mean, there were 2 different groups, right? I mean, 40 something kids up there, and so 18 get rostered for game. But even if you did fall into that second group, which I did find myself in a lot of the times, but the way you play, it was still cemented the same way that everybody else was playing. But I mean, we're all D1 athletes, right? And we're all high D2 level athletes. We're all great soccer players in this country, and so fitting together was never going to be a problem. It was more or less kind of putting together Adam's vision of how he wanted us to play. And so yeah, so I remember the game you're talking about. So I played the 10 in that game actually, like in the midfield. And so
Hmm.
like I talked to him before the game about like how he wanted me to play and whatnot. He gave me some ideas, which really helped, carry me over through the game and like finding different pockets in a position that I a little more unfamiliar with than like striker, let's say. But yeah, I mean the coaching staff just did a great job of explaining how we want to play, areas we want to attack, and different ways we want to break down defenses.
Yeah, I think that, you really set my expectation as a player when, the first time I saw your game was when you were sort of sitting deeper. And so I always kind of saw that, ball carrying, a little more clearly after that. So it was fascinating. So I guess, talking about the experience of the league as well, I know that you guys had a definite advantage, on the home field because of the crowd, but just from a fan experience point of view, were there any stadiums that you guys traveled on the away team where you really felt the crowd on your back, sort of that away fan energy that, kind of pushes on you?
I don't think any of our in the Northeast Conference, anybody even had that could say a word into like fan, like away fan, like how they interacted or whatnot. Seacoast probably had the second most people that we had like outside of our own home games. But like, it's a quiet crowd. You don't really feel like the intensity of like and anything coming like the passion basically that you guys would show. And so the only other comparable thing is Lionsbridge FC, but
Hmm.
even then I'll take a game with, the Green Mountain Boys on my back versus the Lionsbridge crew. So
I got to tell you, like watching my son plays for Farpost, and going to tournaments and seeing those young kids from Seacoast. They're they have little clubs and academies all over the place, and they bring them up through the USL2 and through their academy system. I can't help but think that, having Burlington Football Club and Farpost and Nordic to be able to feed our program in Vermont as a bad thing at all. And quite honestly, like obviously you can tell that Will's the tactics guy, so he's going to be asking those questions of you. But for me, I think a lot of what you brought to us in the within the fan base, I guess, is intensity and energy. That I don't necessarily think we saw maybe in the beginning of the season as much. I think what I was looking at, in those games was I think a lot of those games were a lot more physical to look at. It was more of a physical game versus a finesse game. It was like almost like watching two different teams at times last year.
mhm.
And when that group that picked things up and pushed on forward through and into the playoffs came along, I think for us as fans, not to diminish anything that the first group had done, it just became even more exciting. Like just to watch, uh, you know, your speed out there, and the way that Diva played, and I'm a big midfield guy, so like
Mhm.
for me it was Charlie Adams as well. He's one of our own.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to quantify like the amount of energy that you guys brought. So I guess my question is, um like how did you find that energy to come in, and knowing that you were kind of taking over, um you know for a successful group that
Mhm.
that had already played, but you're trying to fit in that same system.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like that first group did amazing when they came in. I mean, if you look at a regular season record throughout the year, like even when we lost guys throughout it, like those guys were big in almost all the games they played, right? When we had to put teams away, we put teams away. When we had to defend, like they were all locked in and zoned in on that. But like that second group, I actually had a joke running with them. We were we called ourselves the bench mob for a short period of time. It was but yeah, I mean, every player that went up there was like a grit and grind player, like get things done. And, again, like kudos to Adam. Like one of the first things we like talked about was like transition, like how however much energy you put into the offense, you should be putting the same amount into the defense, right? And so it's a two-way game, of course. But I think a lot of the guys in the second unit like felt like they could like give more than what they like had to at that point, right? And so when they got their chance, I mean, everybody, like including myself, was like, we're not going to let anybody like outwork us. We're going to show that we deserve the same chances as these other guys, and that we should be in the same conversation. And just that, it's a pride thing more than anything else. You want to show everybody that like no one's going to outwork us, no one's going to go into tackles harder than us, and there's an added pressure, obviously, for you guys. I mean, for the fans, like that meant everything to us. And so knowing that either you're streaming our games or you're coming out in massive numbers to come and support us, we didn't want to let anybody down or have any second guess as to like, some of these guys left. Like, I don't know if we're in a safe spot with like some of these other guys. We just want to, it's like a blanket of security, more or less, that we kind of just want to show that, we're here to play as well.
Well, speaking of pride and, this idea of stepping up, I guess I just have to ask, I mean, how do you feel, knowing you've probably scored the most important goal in Vermont Green history up to now? I mean, sure, inaugural season, but, your go-ahead goal against Lionsbridge down to 10 men, which was just a real direct play. You got behind the guy in the shoulder and just tapped it in after a long, nice pass. But how does that moment rank for you in sort of your, football career so far?
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's like a top 5 moment in my soccer career, I think. I mean, like the energy, like the situation, like everything. That's like one of the moments you dream of, right? Like you're in the playoffs, like, and it's a do or die game. You want to, and as a forward, obviously you want to be on the end of scoring goals. And so being able to do that and like provide, my team, like the reward of like finding me and like being able to put that goal away was absolutely massive. And so, yeah, that was also my first technical game winner since I've entered college. And so that was also like a big thing. I was texting Bragos, and actually after the game, he was like, yeah, just bring that back to Quinnipiac when you come back from Vermont there. But yeah, like by far like a standout moment for me in my career, I think, so far.
I gotta tell you, when you played in that playoff game against Vermont, I said, "Oh shit." I was quietly rooting for you, but quietly rooting against you too.
No, I mean, I was sitting in the locker room and like on that day when they were drawing the teams, and like I couldn't help but like laugh. Like what are the odds? Like I just come from up there and I have to go back up there for the second time this season to go and play everybody. But yeah, I mean, if I couldn't have picked a better matchup for me and myself, like if you look back at like what a game that was, like double overtime, a goal at the end there, 2 minutes left right before penalties. It sucked being on the opposite end of it, but it was nice to be back up in the like a familiar area and knowing that some people were still like quietly rooting for me in the corner.
So speaking of college career, what is the competition level like comparing USL2 to sort of the collegiate play? Is it comparable? Is it a little more relaxed because it's summer off season?
I mean, I think it's very comparable. I mean, the summer, I mean, everybody takes every break they have as a chance to grow and develop as players. And like going to play like USL2 is like the highest level you can technically play without losing your eligibility, right? So you're getting all the top guys from around the country. And so, yeah, the competition's there. Sometimes feel like it's actually more than college and sometimes. And so playing these guys, like obviously they play at a high level of soccer, otherwise they wouldn't be at where they're at. But yeah, like there's the competition is comparable, if not more, in the summer, I'd say.
Interesting. And not to just keep jumping around, but when you compare the guys that were on the team last year, and if you don't mind me asking this, who is the guy on a technical level that really would scare you if you had to defend against him.
Oh, Bilal Kamal, no question about it. That
Yeah,
dude's
yeah.
that dude's left and right foot, I kid you not, are the exact same thing. Like he does not have a weak foot. He'll beat he, if you check his TikTok account, actually, he does all these like showing people how to do skills and whatnot. If he came up against me in the field, like I don't know how I would defend it. I wouldn't force him one way because that does nothing with both feet. But yeah, by far.
I think he was the one guy that I think that him and Aitor that we really were worried about losing. But you know, and then of course, I don't know if you want me to bring this up, but your injury too, like
Mhm.
you know, that game I think was the most physical game that I think we saw all season. And watching you go down like that was pretty horrific. You know, I work in the operating room, so I see those type of injuries a lot. Do you want to walk us through kind of what happened, or and how you recovered so quickly from that?
Yeah. So I was on the field. The other team got a free kick, I think it was, in their half of the field. And like we're winning the game trying to close it out. So I'm standing in front of the ball. And so like I got like pushed, but like I got hit and like right between my ribs. And so I felt the knock at first, but like brushed it off as it was nothing because I wanted to keep going in the game. And so I think it went on for like 7 minutes more before like I was starting to have a little bit difficulty of breathing. And I'm on like close to the touchline. I was like, coach, like I can't really breathe. Like I'm having some difficulties here. Like I might need to come out, you know. And like the one thing I hate more than anything else is asking to come out of games. And so yeah, so then Kate, our trainer, told me to go down, and then it all happened really quickly after that. But like my breathing, it sounded terrible. Like the noises that were coming out from like my lungs and whatnot, it just didn't sound right. It was like uneven. Um, and then you know the Boston guys thought I was faking it to finish out the game, so that was a nice touch to say stop faking it, get up. And but yeah, so I mean it was handled overall greatly. I think. I mean the from the response to even like the players and like everybody. It was a very emotional time, of course. And yeah, I mean the like setting up that wall to kind of give a little bit of privacy between the me and like the fans as to not you know scare people more than what had already happened. And then the emergency crew came out. They were really great, helped me start getting more oxygen into my lungs, carted me off, and then from then on it was amazing experience. I mean, the ambulance ride over was a quick one. When I got to the emergency room, I was taken care of really well. um yeah, just the quick turnaround of like you know being in that moment, thinking, not knowing what to think is going to happen next, and then to be comforted by the fact that I know all these professionals and everybody are helping me out was really great. And then the recovery from it was that I was told to take some time off. Of course, there's some like internal swelling that was like pressing in there, and so kind of had to wait for that to drop down before I came back. But yeah, it just felt like unfinished business back up north. I had a conversation with Adam and we talked about like him saying that obviously like the coaches, the owners were like happy with what I've done this summer, and like don't don't force yourself to play if you can't, because you want to be back here next year. Like we obviously understand, like we know you as a person, and that really eased my mind with that. And luckily, I was able to go home for a week and escape, kind of relax. I joined my family on vacation in Cape Cod, which was really great downtime. But yeah, I just got a feeling in my stomach one morning, and I talked to my parents about it. It really just felt like unfinished business up in Vermont. That like not being able to go out on my own terms and having it dictated for me was something that I didn't want. Like didn't want to have that feeling of regret later on. And so yeah, came back. Adam actually texted me. Said if I was feeling better, that they could use me back. And so I dropped everything that I was doing and headed my 4.5 hours back up to Vermont.
And man, we were happy to have you. Let me tell you.
Thank you.
uh, Yeah, so I think that our fan base is the way it grew throughout the season, but toward the end, I think that that kind of solidified the club's status in the state. I just learned today that um, there are over 700 season tickets sold already, and
Wow.
yeah, that's pretty huge. So that means there's going to be 700 folks coming to the game. You know, once or twice a week, depending on how the schedule is released. But
Mhm.
um, I think that just the way that the club approached building a club, building the team, and not just with the players, but in engaging the community and that kind of stuff. Um, kind of kind of informed, what the future of the club is going to be here.
Mhm.
Um, is there any kind of stuff that you saw with the club that like you knew from the beginning this was going to be a good grassroots project, or was it like one of those things that you're kind of like, I'm not sure how this is going to go. We'll see. We want to wait it out and
Mhm.
see what happens. I mean, or you know, I don't know. I think we met real quick at the first mixer there. I have a great picture of you with my son,
Mhm. Yeah.
and Bilal. But I think that was the first kind of community outreach from the club that we saw. And I got to meet Patrick and Keel, and talk to them a little bit. But what did you see from the club that showed that they're going to be engaging the community the way they did?
I mean, it was just as much as we were working hard at the field, they were, you know, working like crazy off the field. So like just when we came in, we talked about like community outreach and how big that is going to be for this club, and like talked about us volunteering our time at the King Center, and just we made it a big point of emphasis too, like when games started getting like flooded and people started coming in afterwards to like take the time out of like the whatever, just 10-15 minutes to like talk with like a kid or like sign some autographs or whatnot. I mean, the like we felt like we were being looked up towards, and we wanted to be good role models for the younger community at least. And I mean, I worked an internship there as well over the summer, and so like I kind of saw behind the scenes about different community stuff that like we were working on, and like kind of behind the curtain stuff that was happening. And yeah, the amount that they want to engage with the community is something I haven't seen in a lot of other places that I've played for. Like they really make it a point of emphasis that like the fans come over like everything, and that you know we might be isolated, up in the Northeast, up in Vermont, with not a lot of soccer going on, but what we can provide, and we want to set an example for, if other teams want to come through, or if like, if teams in different areas want to change the way they're going, to kind of like align with how we're doing things, then like it's the perfect example. But yeah, it was definitely everybody was working so hard, like from the interns to the ownership group. Everybody did a fantastic job with that whole outreach thing.
That kind of brings me into the next question because we actually have a listener question. Our first
Oh,
listener question. This is kind of
Oh, there you
fun.
go.
Yeah, it's from Rain or Shine Media. I think that's Tristan, one of our photographers.
yeah.
Um, he says, "Hey Sam, could you describe the players' relationship with the ownership group?" And then he says, "Much love for Pat, Matt, Sam, Keel, and Colin."
The ownership group did a great job of, mixing in like the professional relationship with it, and then like obviously being a part of like what we were like building in the locker room, like that chemistry. Like I was 19 years old at that time, and like I felt like these owners who, close to twice my age at times, were some of my best friends up there. Like you have great conversations with them, and like it's just so easy to relate with them because you know, they're just such easy going guys. They did, like I said, they did an amazing job with like deciding when like they had to be owners, and then like when they could be friendly with us. But yeah, like the coolest group of guys you would ever meet and hang out with ever.
I can attest to that too. They did a lot for us, you know, the parking lot crew. Yeah, even though we gave, you know, we gave shit to every opposing team that came in, you know, on their vans.
Awesome.
You know,
That's amazing.
yeah. Oh, he's got the is that the UTFG one?
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's the Vivid Coffee sponsor. Yep.
yeah. Very nice. I'm sure I've been taking up some of Will's question time, but
No, it's okay. I had something, but I realized you're not 21, so you can't really help us get a sponsorship with Burlington Beer Company. So
we can definitely reach out to them.
I guess I do have one, more fun one for you. So, taking you back to the last game of the season against Western Mass Pioneers. I know you're friends with Diva Noegbo, so now's your chance to tell us: did he mean that? Was that a shot or a cross?
Whatever Diva says, I promise you that was a cross.
Okay.
We asked him the same question, but in my eyes and in a lot of other eyes, it was a cross. I mean,
I can tell you that we were at Rera after that game, and as he was leaving, I said that was a cross, right? And he just kind of winked at me and kept on walking. Winked at me, he gave me a smile, and kept on walking.
Yeah, that's typical Diva fashion right there.
Yeah,
oh, what a guy.
Yeah.
It reminds me to we're all Premier League fans on this podcast. Reminds me of 2 years ago, Bukayo Saka hit that almost identical shot against Chelsea, and he would never admit whether it was a cross or a shot. So I thought it was great.
We had a couple of those this year too, where it's like cross shot, like somewhere in the middle of it, but they'll say they shot it, but
hey, well, you put the ball towards the net and things happen for you. So
yeah,
so in that vein, fun topics. How'd you feel about the kits? Was that a fun style to represent on the field?
That was a big drawing piece, like about why I wanted to come too. The player presentation that Brock showed me, I saw like the rumored kits and like what it was gonna be like looking like, and like it was just like amazing. And like, why wouldn't you want to wear that either like leisurely or like playing? Like the kits were absolutely stunning. Like there's no other ways to put it. Like the way they were thought out and done. I mean, we all love the cream kit, like bringing back like the collar and like that old school like retro vibe. It was, I mean, yeah, cannot complain about that whatsoever. Everybody wanted a piece of it.
Yeah, and you'd look out in the stands, and half of us have kits on. It's definitely a selling point. Because I think there's a different level, presentation wise, that Vermont Green offers than a lot of these other USL2 clubs. It definitely has that professional developed style to it, which I think is really attractive to the fans, and it sounds like it's really attractive to potential players as well. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, I mean, like even like our practice kits on like a daily basis, like were like amazing, and like top to bottom, everything we were provided by the club was always like top notch. And like I wouldn't, I know other guys in USL2 teams, and like everybody was asking for like a piece of the merch, right, and like trying to get stuff. So yeah, it just speaks to like the creative process and like everything that went into this, and like how well thought out it was and executed.
So you said, you talked to the guys that do USL2 teams. What's the general chatter, among the players about Vermont Green? Is there going to be a long line out the door, people lining up to try to play for Vermont Green this season? I've
gotten numerous texts throughout this year about people wanting to come to Vermont Green. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, just what we're able to provide, like, as a location, like everything close by to, Virtue Field and like in the area, the fan base, of course, like everybody saw the pictures on Instagram, and like, why wouldn't you want that? The jerseys, like the coaching staff, like everything top down from this club is like a step up, I think, at least from a lot of what a lot of these other places can provide. And so, yeah, I mean, everybody and their mother wants to come to this club, and like I don't blame them for it.
Right. I suppose, not to rag on them, but we saw some away streams from some other clubs when you guys went away, and for example, Boston City had like maybe 8 people in the stands, and I just have to imagine that is something that matters. Is you guys clearly want to play in front of people, so it must be a big draw.
Yeah, I think that maybe I think it like four of our away games, like the first four games we went to, we had more supporters than like the home team. And like we're traveling what for Boston City, that was what 3.5, 4 hour trip for us on the
Mhm.
bus, and we still have more people there than they do. And it shows like the reach one and like the commitment to want to support like a club like this. Um, yeah, it's ridiculous. And then I watched the game back on Facebook Live of the Lionsbridge game and was hysterically laughing at like all those comments in there. Like you might not have been with us like in person to like watch the game, but like the presence was definitely felt. And then I know we had everybody was like watching that back and like looking at every single comment going through back and forth between the Lionsbridge fans and us. It was hysterical.
Yeah, that was a fun time because we were all kind of to the winds because it was online, of course. But I think overall the fans that streamed were really happy that the stream quality was higher than, some of the away games we've gotten this season. But, I know people are in there trying to get those away feeds whenever they can. So,
Yeah.
fans are always trying to watch Vermont Green even when they're on the road, any way
Yeah.
possible. So,
And
absolutely.
yeah, and to that too is we have a very good stream too. So like everything that the ownership group put into the team is what made the team too. I think that allowing us to grow as a supporters group as well. On top of that, eh, the they have done everything right from step one, um, and I think that that's really telling too. Um, but I mean, what are you thinking about like this season? Like, what should we expect like out of a season two? Should we expect more great things, or should we expect, obviously we don't want to expect a letdown or anything like that, but
Mhm.
like the highs that we got like as fans, and I'm sure that you guys had as players, like what should Vermont fans expect out of like Coach Pfeiffer and his crew? And
I mean, I think the fans should only expect the best from us. I mean, we've cemented ourselves as one of the top clubs in the Northeast in a single season. Um, our pool of players has only gotten bigger, right? And like the talent outreach that we can now, I mean, the first season, like regardless, they did a great job with recruiting and bringing in like some of these high level guys and kind of selling them on the mission of the club and like what we were trying to achieve. But now that like everybody wants a piece of it, and so like we get to pick and choose. The coach staff gets to pick and choose about like who they want to bring in and like who's going to be a good fit. And I don't think we're going to see as much of the like a leaving point where like a bunch of guys are going to like step out for the season. I think it's more of that was like an experience thing. Like now that that's figured out about how long the season's like running towards or whatnot, I the bare minimum I think for at least for players and like our expectation for returners is to get to where we were, but we want to push for further. Like we know that we can, inevitably win it all at some point, right? And so if you look at the team we lost to, right? We lost to what's it called?
Long Island
it was Long Island, right? Yeah.
Rough
Long Island.
Riders. Yep.
Yeah, Rough Riders. They made a deep run, and like it's not like they were blowing us out the water. It's also not as if we had our full capacity squad. Again, not knocking on anybody that was on that team. Like we did a great job. It just wasn't our day that day, unfortunately. But you know, I think that like a deep run is like what everybody's expecting, and I think that should be the standard for us as a high club now in USL too.
Yeah, and I think that really the beating of Lionsbridge was sort of the proof of concept for this club to knock off the number one seed, a very established club. I think was a great moment. And I have to say, you keep saying we, and I suppose we just have to ask you, what are your plans for this summer?
So I have nothing lined up as of now, but my intentions are to go back to Vermont Green. And going back up there for the summer would be something that as soon as I left for college after our season ended was something that like I thought about and wanted to get accomplished. So if all goes well, I'll be seeing you guys in a couple of months. And but yeah, definitely my intentions are to play for Vermont this summer.
Well, that's great to hear. And we'll be in that parking lot with our tent and will be loud. So we can't
You
wait.
guys, you'll know I'll stop by. I'll be there. Don't worry. After the game, I'll stop by.
Of course.
Very, very gracious, to take a picture with us that one day. That was very nice of you. Um, it, that really will make a lot of our fan base very happy. Um, we hesitated to ask because we didn't want to, blow anything up for the club, but with the Deba Nwegbo announcement today, we felt like it would be great to have another announcement that we as a podcast you wanted to get our own little bit in there,
Get the scoop, if you will.
Get this, yeah. I didn't want to really call it a scoop, but yeah, it's a scoop. The scoop sounds too much like 1940s Hollywood newspaper writer, but I think it's fantastic that you want to come back. You want to be, kind of get yourself deeper with the community and be part of this club, because obviously you're already part of the history of this club, that you guys are building, that we're all building. And we really appreciate it. We really appreciate everything that you've done, everything that the rest of the guys have done and the future guys are going to do.
Yeah. And I think that goes a lot into like, at least what my belief is, that you get out of it what you put into it. I mean, like on all ends of things, right? So on the field, working as hard as you can for your teammates, your coaches, the ownership group, because we're all buying into the same dream that they're buying into, making this club as successful as possible and pushing it as high as we can. And then for the fans, like, of course, like we want you guys to be jumping up, celebrating, getting rowdy, doing all those things that you guys already do now. We want that to be like, the bare minimum that we can do for you guys is provide an escape, not from like life, but like, just another place where you can like only have good memories, right? Where you can really connect and feel like you're a part of this thing as much as we are. And so, yeah, I mean, on all ends of things, I think no matter new guys, old guys, whatever you're going to get out of it, you're going to get the same thing of like that wanting to connect with everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, the Green just announced today that they're bringing back Deba, which is huge. So there's, two men on our front lines they're going to be fighting. And I really, really look forward to seeing what else they're going to bring in the coming days and weeks. I know they had a big tryout. I'm sure there's some local folks coming in, but I'm excited. And every couple of weeks we're going to be back doing another player interview, coach interview, interviews with people that are around the club and involved in the club. So this is going to be a fun journey for us. And if during the season we take you to task, Sam, on a particular podcast, don't take it personally.
Hey, you know what? You guys have the freedom to do that. I mean, I look forward to it. Hopefully, if you got to critique me, just try and remember last year when you're doing it.
Hey, listen. I on my other podcast, we won't mention the name of the club, but I take it out on a lot of those guys all the time, especially my good friend Sonny, and I love the guy, and I'll always support that team too. But just to let you know that like you're now part of our family, and we really appreciate you coming on today. And I'll just let Will close it out for us if he's got anything to say.
I don't really have anything else to say today. I think we have a lot of stuff lined up for this season and the lead up the season, and I think having you on today, you spending your time with us, chatting football has been absolutely fantastic. So if you do end up coming back, we're not going to hold you to it, but if you do, I can't wait to see you bang in a couple goals and see you fight for that starting spot. So thank you guys so much for the time tonight. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, the opportunity to just come out and speak to everybody was amazing. And once I heard the first one, it clicked in my head that, like, being a part of that would be really cool. And like, you guys, how accepting you were to all the players and like how everything rolled, like it's like one of the most memorable summers of my life, and that has large part to do with how you guys were like on a daily basis, like not even just in games, like walking around the streets, how you guys interacted with us. Like, I mean, I got tons of messages from fans over social media after I was hospitalized, but like just the community outreach, both ways was like significant, and it definitely means a lot. You guys have built something special with this, and I'm really excited to see what comes out of you guys in the future.
Awesome. Hey, well, Sam McCann in the Green Mountain Boys kit on the podcast. He truly is one of our own. Thank you, guys.
Very much. And